I'm a young warehouse manager that takes ownership for anything and everything that goes wrong. This seems to offend my coworkers. How can I fix it?
Okay. Classic dichotomy leadership question right there. You've gone too far. That's what's happened. You've gone too far. So what you have to do is don't be offensive when you take ownership. When you take ownership, you can't be offensive. When you take ownership, some people get offended by that. So when you say, hey, you know what, this is mine, I got this, that bothers some people. When you say, you know what, this is my fault and I'm going to fix it, that offends some people.
What, the tone?
Just the tone.
Yeah.
Of like, no, this is, hey, my fault, I got this.
Yeah.
And you do that three times, 4 times, 5 times, and all of a sudden goes, oh, what, everything's his fault. Now he's got to fix everything. He doesn't think I can fix it.
Right.
You can offend people with all kinds of stuff. You don't have to work very hard to offend people. I mean, there's people get offended when you say something nice to them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I was watching, I met, you ever seen the yoga dude that does like yoga videos? He's got red hair. His name is Spears.
Yeah.
I met him just randomly getting off a plane. But is
it Spears or Sears?
Sears. I think it's Sears.
Maybe Spears.
What did I say, Spears?
Yeah.
I don't know because
I know the guy though. Yeah.
Yeah. He's
spiritual
funny.
AF on his show.
Yeah.
Very
funny guy, very cool guy. And once I met him, I was laughing. I was checking out a couple of his videos, but one of them was, how to be offended at all things. And it's hilarious.
So funny, yeah.
Because that's exactly what some people can get offended by anything.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to watch out for. Even when you're taking ownership, people can actually be offended by that if you go too far. So instead of overtly stepping up and taking ownership in this particular case, and you can tell what's going on here. My brother here, young warehouse manager, he's fired up. He wants to make things happen. He wants to get after it. And so what does he do? He's like, oh, I read Extreme Ownership. I'm going to take ownership of everything. And that's a great attitude to have. Yeah. Except for you can offend people when you go too far, because you got to read the second book, The Dichotomy of Leadership, so that you can balance that out a little bit. So instead of saying like, hey, this is mine, I'm going to take ownership of this and make it happen. Instead, you look at someone, you say, hey, you know what? Do you want me to take care of this? Oh, hey, you know what? That's probably in my department. You want me to take care of that? So that way, or like, hey, it seems like this should be something I should take care of. You want me to handle that? Instead of me. I got asked a question the other day at a Q&A, and the question started off with the person started the question with, I've got the question that everyone in here needs answered. So out of the gate, I was like, okay, so we have a situation here, right? Because that immediately tells you that in that person's head, they've got the question that everyone needs answered. So there's already an ego scenario happening, like out of the gate. So same thing here. You don't know if you're going to touch someone's egos, right? Yeah. So when you say, look, this is my deal and I'm going to fix it, like some people will take offense to that. So again, you soften those a little bit. Try and give credit up the chain of command, right? Try and give credit down the chain of command. Instead of, I'll take ownership of it. It's like, hey, what if you say we? When credit gets doled out, get past that credit on, pass it to your peers, pass it to your subordinates, pass it to your boss. So that's it. Take ownership. What you need to do at this point, young man, is take ownership of being offensive.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're going to be less offensive. You're going to be more covert. Hey, remember I said earlier, like, you don't get to pick the boss. You don't get to pick your boss. But you get to pick the relationship you have with her. You don't get to pick your peers. You don't get to pick your subordinates. You get your team. Hey, can you pick them? Yes, you can quit your job. Can you hire the right people? Yes, you can. But look, what you got is what you got. You got to work with it. You don't. Everyone, man, I wish everyone was more fired up like I am. Like, that's not going to go well. You know, it's great that you wish that. Yeah. That's not going to go well. What you have to do is you gotta. Here's another one. This is similar, right? Millennials. Well, hey, one of the things, this is a very simple, I've done the Millennium Questions 1,000 times.
Sure.
And the Vietnam veterans, the Vietnam draftees compared to hey, we can talk about that again. We don't need to. But if you're in charge of millennials and you think to yourself, millennials they think everything centers around them. Well, what do you do as a leader? You know what I do as a leader? I make everything center around them. And then they perform, and then they get after it. And as they grow up, they learn that everything doesn't center around them, but I bring them there. Why? Because I form a relationship. Why? Because I listen to them. Why? Because I understand them. Mm-hmm. So you don't get the team that you want. You don't get the boss that you want. What you do is you play the game up and down the chain of command and form relationships up and down the chain of command that you want. Mm. What relationships do you want from up the chain of command? You want them to listen to you. You want them to give you what you need. You want them to get out of your way and let you do the mission. What about down the chain of command? You want them to support what's happening. You want them to get after their job. You want them to step up and lead. That's what you want. If you have an antagonistic relationship because your millennials think everything's about them, well, then guess what? You're not going to be able to have any influence on them, any real influence. You can have the imposed will on them. Mm-hmm. But the imposed will is a paper tiger, right? It's not real. It only lasts when you're there. And guess what they're doing? They're looking for another job. Yep. So take ownership of being offensive and be less offensive and more covert. And you know what, bro? Young warehouse manager, keep getting after it, and it will pay off. And the fact that you're fired up and you're crushing it, crush it with a little bit more tact. And one day you're gonna be making it happen.
Yeah.
Well, we got time for one more question.
Yeah. To add though a little tip, I think you taught this to me. Actually, I realized this when I embraced extreme ownership. Mm-hmm. You can't say, "Hey, I'm gonna take extreme ownership of this." Like it's one of those things. It's like just like taking the high ground, right? Yeah. You get in like a thing with somebody.
Yeah.
You can't say
I'm gonna take the high ground,
and then it doesn't work like that. Like it ruins.
You just gave up the high ground when you announced that you were taking the high ground.
Gave it up. Exactly right. Same thing with extreme ownership.
Yeah,
like in these situations. So if
that's a very good point, Echo Charles.
And the thing is, I get it, man. When you're like, I'm taking, and he even said, I take ownership of anything and everything that goes wrong. Anything, like straight up, he's your guy, right? So it might indicate. I'm not saying he's doing this, but he could be going, "Hey guys, no worries, I'm taking extreme ownership of this situation." Like if you say that kind of stuff, I could see how that would rub somebody.
What's odd, and this is a very good thing to understand about human nature, everyone's jealous of you. Everyone's jealous of each other. Everyone's jealous of everyone else. No one wants you to win, right? It's just like, so when this guy is stepping up, the crowd starts to pick at him. They start to pick at him, and they want to pick him. They want to pull him apart. Yeah. That's generally what the crowd wants to do to you. When you step up, when you elevate yourself, generally the crowd wants to pick at you and pull you back down.
Who does he think he is?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So if you're aware of that, then you can combat it by instead of elevating yourself in an overt manner where everyone can see you saying, "I'm going to take ownership of this right now and get it solved." Yeah. No. You sit back and say, "Hey, you know what? This is probably my fault. Do you want me to let me try and take some time and get it fixed?" Everyone goes, they're actually kind of happy. They're like, "Yeah, it was your fault." They're kind of like it's okay with them. Whereas opposed to, "I'm going to take ownership." This is dichotomy leadership. You read extreme ownership. Awesome. You got to read dichotomy too.